Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me today for another video. So today is super gloomy and rainy outside. And another thing I noticed about the new apartment is one of the gutters that comes from the 4th story all the way down is right next to my bedroom window. So where I normally enjoy the sound of rain, this is quite brutal. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but anyway. Well, it's okay. We're gonna make the best of it, right? Sound of rain is a beautiful thing. You guys know that we are quarantining. Wow, we are quarantining as a family. Joe did test positive for COVID this week. He's doing really well, and I have to say thanks first and foremost to you guys for your prayers, your suggestions, tips, and recommendations for things that can lessen his symptoms and help him through this time that he's going through, and also just your encouragement. You guys are awesome, and we really appreciate that. Just the community of like-minded people coming together to validate our feelings about the situation and our choices that we've made. That's really awesome. So far his symptoms have been super minor. I think the first day, we're on day 4 since his symptoms started, but the first day was a massive headache, a slight fever, and just body aches and chills, kind of like that typical flu-like symptom that you would get. So that was the first 24 hours, and we kept the fever and the massive headache at bay with alternating Tylenol extra strength with ibuprofen. And that seemed to be the only thing that would touch the massive headache that he had. I think that was like the biggest problem that he had. So last night he had some major night sweats. I mean, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, Joe, you got the scoot overdue, like you're just dripping sweat. He put a towel down, and I think that his body is doing what it's supposed to do. His immune system is fighting the virus the way that it's supposed to. And so that's where we're at right now. He is doing good. I think that we are through the worst of it. So far, Parker and I have 0 symptoms. I did test myself the same day that Joe did because I was feeling a little run down, very lethargic, no energy. I wasn't really sure though, like if that was maybe the onset of COVID or if it was just like the coming off of the high of moving and losing our dog and just like all the stress that we've had the last week or two. Sometimes you can like go. And then like when it all stops, you kind of just like go numb and you fizzle out. So I tested negative though. We did not test Parker because Parker's doing just fine, has no symptoms or anything. So hopefully we will be all right. It's interesting quarantining as a family because we are in close contact with Joe. I'm sleeping in the same bed with Joe. He's sitting on the couch that we're sitting on. He's touching the bathroom door that we're touching. Like, it is what it is. And I'm not afraid of getting it. At this point, it's like we're young, we're healthy, our immune systems are strong. So if that is what God has in his plan for us, then that's what will happen. I would rather die than live my life in fear. I absolutely refuse to live my life in fear. So I'll be damned if I'm going to tiptoe around this house and around my husband and act like he's got something that's going to kill me when it's not. Anyway, I say all that to say Joe is doing well, and we're just, taking care of this the way that we would any other cold or flu or sickness that might hit the family. And with that, I want to say that I realize, because I've had some comments on my post about Joe testing positive, I do realize that this affects everybody differently. So please don't hear me say that we don't take this seriously and that this is not a serious virus, because I believe for some people it can be. But for those people, that is not the majority. Most of the people, according to the CDC, that are contracting the virus are recovering just fine. So we don't have any reason to believe that we would be in any different situation. So that's kind of the way we're looking at it. And I'm not going to live in fear. Joe is not going to live in fear. We're just kind of taking it day by day. So now if I can keep myself from getting sick or keep Parker from getting sick, then I absolutely want to do that. Just like I wouldn't want him getting poison ivy or anything else that he could contract in his life. You know, there's measures that we take to protect ourselves that are within reason. And so I'm keeping the house clean. I'm Lysoling and disinfecting all the surfaces every night before we go to bed, making sure that we're not drinking after Joe, no kisses, no hugs, just things like that, you know, while he is going through this time. And I think that that's sufficient. So while we are, you know, quarantining here in this little apartment on this rainy, gloomy day, I did not intend on filming anything today. I threw my hair up today. I'm just kind of in my lazy house clothes, but I just thought I'm bored and I'm kind of losing my mind in here. So I thought I would just pop in and say what's up to you guys. And while I'm at it on a gloomy day like this, I think it's a great day to make some delicious apple spice muffins that I've been wanting to share with you guys for quite a while. So they're a comfort food. They are good for you. They're delicious. They're super easy to make. So I'm going to make those and I'm going to share that recipe with you guys. I'm going to be making these muffins with my fresh ground flour with my Komo grain mill. But if you don't have a grain mill and you're not grinding your own flour, don't fret. That's okay. You can use regular store-bought flour and it's going to work just fine. And I also want to say this recipe is very flexible. So maybe you don't want to do apples. Maybe you want to throw blueberries in your muffins or strawberries or whatever you want. I'm going to add some nuts to mine as well. Joe doesn't care for nuts in his food, so I'm probably going to do half with nuts, half without. It's just a flexible recipe, but I think today is a perfect day for it. So really quickly before we jump into our recipe, I just wanted to share a verse with you guys that is talking about not living in fear and trusting in the Lord, because I think that in the culture that we're in today, I think the real pandemic is a pandemic of fear. So Isaiah 41:10 says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you, and I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." I love this verse, and I actually envision God's mighty hands around me and my family whenever we're going through hard times, because he is mighty and he does have that righteous hand. So sometimes when we can't find strength and peace in anything here in the world, we need to just look up to him, because he's really the only one that can give us peace through that time that we're going through. So anyway, just wanted to share that verse with you guys and encourage you not to be afraid. Don't live in fear. God numbers our days for us, not man, not a virus, not anything else. God has already planned our lives. He knows how many days we're going to be alive. He knows what we're going to pass away from. So if it is God's intent and in his will for us to die from a virus, God forbid, then that is his plan. But if it's not, then that virus isn't going to kill us. So we're going to get through this just fine. And I just trust in the Lord, and I'm not going to allow fear to consume my family the way that sadly it's consuming a lot of people, not just in our country, but around the world right now. And even for those that have suffered greatly from the virus and had a very different experience than our experience, or those that have lost loved ones, it's not to minimize that, but we've lived with viruses for hundreds upon hundreds of years. We live every day with things that can take our lives: car accidents, drugs, alcohol, crime, all the things, right? And we cannot live in a bubble. We have to continue living our lives and be the light and speak the truth, because that's what God has called us to do. So I hope that's a little encouraging. That's just kind of my thoughts on the situation. I won't lie, when Joe woke up and had a fever that morning, my heart sunk a little bit, just because it does affect everybody differently. You don't really know how it's going to affect one person over the other. And he's my husband and I love him very much. So, and then I quickly gathered my thoughts and was like, oh no, Tina, you know, and I started praying and I asked the Lord to give me strength and to carry us through this and to not let me be consumed with fear, because wouldn't Satan just love that? So let's not give Satan what he wants. Let's not fear and trust in the Lord. I've got a delicious cup of coffee, so let's get to it and I'll share this recipe with you guys. And as usual, I will post the recipe in the description of the video and link any of the products that I use if you would like to check them out. As always, I will be sure to link the recipe and all of the ingredients in the video description, so make sure you check that out. Today, I'm going to be using soft white wheat berries for my grain mill. When you're baking, you want to use soft white versus hard white. It gives you a better pastry type flour to work with. Remember, if you're not using a grain mill, you can just use regular store-bought flour, no problem. I'm also using some of my homemade vanilla extract. I'll link here if you'd like to learn how to make that. Super easy and super cheap. You're going to need a whole stick of room temperature butter. And then next up, you're going to need some salt and a little bit of cinnamon, and of course some baking soda. And then you're going to need 1 egg, about half a cup of brown sugar, 1 full cup of sour cream. That's what makes this so moist and delicious. And then a full cup of honey. And I'm so happy that we still have a few gallons from the homestead property from the beehives. So I use that in all my baking. You're gonna want some crushed nuts of choice if you like nuts. I like walnuts. I just crushed them up with a mason jar in a bowl. And then of course you're gonna need some apples for this recipe, or whatever kind of fruit you like. You can use whatever you want. I just like apples. It's so warm and cozy and they're delicious. You guys, my grain mill has become a staple on my kitchen counter. I love being able to grind my own flour. When I grind my flour, I always do it on the finest setting. It gives me a beautiful flour to work with. For this recipe, you're gonna need about 2.5 cups of flour. So that's, whether it's fresh ground flour or from the store, whatever you choose, but you're gonna need about 2.5 cups. And I find with the wheat berries, when grinding your own, that's gonna be about 1.5 cups or so, give or take, will give you 2 to 2.5 cups of ground flour. Parker is such a big help when it comes to the grain mill in the kitchen. I think he just thinks it's the coolest thing. And I wonder what my neighbors think when they hear this through the walls of the apartment. I would venture to guess I'm probably the only tenant that grinds their own flour. So you want to core and peel your apples. I have a KitchenAid attachment for this very thing, but sometimes I find I'm too lazy to get it out and hook it up. So I just go old school with the knife. It's just easier that way. So I core them myself and peel them with a potato peeler and just slice them up nice and thin so that when they cook in the muffins, they cook thoroughly. You're going to need altogether about 2 cups of apples or whatever kind of fruit that you're using. And this recipe is flexible, so don't worry if you get a little too much or a little bit less than that. I always leave my flour setting on the counter to cool off. When it goes through the grain mill, it tends to be a little warm. Okay, so I was going to show you guys really quick. You know, we've been in the apartment now for almost 2 weeks, right? Super tiny, not a lot of storage. I shared that with you guys in a couple of videos already, but I'm kind of proud of what I did with the little laundry room / pantry. Let me show you what we did. So here in the kitchen, we've got this little door here that leads to the laundry room. And we did some space saving things in here. I mean, nothing crazy, but I just, you know, wanted to show you guys. So I think I showed you this in another video. We brought this over from the homestead property. Just an awesome, awesome space saving piece here. This was super inexpensive, goes right on the other side of the door, and you can just put all your canned goods and some spices. And I have all of my, you know, Ziploc baggies, aluminum foil, all that good stuff down here. So it just keeps it out of the way and out of the cupboards because we don't have a lot of cupboard space. Now, when we got this apartment, the only thing that came with it were this shelf here and this shelf here. Yes, I have top ramen. Don't judge. We have lots of easy food for quick fixes when needed. But yesterday, Joe and I went to Lowe's and we bought this big shelf here that matches the other ones, and it's just been amazing, you guys. So I also grabbed these little shelves here that hook onto the bottom. So Parker's little chips are here where he can grab them, some fresh water, and then we also got this little shelf here where I've been putting like all of my laundry supplies and stuff. So just to kind of keep it up and out of the way, some of my big kitchen appliances, my big water bath canning pot, my Dutch oven, all that good stuff out of the way. So you should have seen it before we did this yesterday. It was like such a mess in here. We were having to shift things from the dryer to the washer, back to the dryer to do laundry. It was just ridiculous. And then I also got a cute little grocery bag holder from Amazon. You just kind of pull the grocery bags out at the bottom, but I don't know about you guys, but we save all of our grocery bags because that's what Parker uses when he cleans out the litter boxes. So they really come in handy. Like, why go buy bags to clean out a litter box when you get them for free every time you go grocery shopping, right? So before, we just had this big bag under the kitchen sink full of grocery bags, and they always got in the way. They fell out all over. And so I finally went on to Amazon, bought this cute little grocery bag holder, and it's a safe spacer too. And it's a space saver too. It keeps it all in this one little spot here. So anyway, that's the new pantry laundry area, and it's just working out really well. So I'm glad that we went and got the extra shelving. We're just trying to maximize space in this little kitchen. Now what's crazy is the Alaska cabin doesn't even have that in it. If you guys remember from the cabin tour video that I did, I'll link that here for you if you haven't seen our cabin in Alaska that we just bought. But we are actually putting a stackable washer and dryer that we bought in the Alaska cabin, there's a space underneath the stairs that is perfect. We measured it. So we're putting our washer and dryer in that space there. But as of right now in the cabin, we have 0 pantry space. So we're gonna have to do something like I did here with like this armoire and get creative with finding places to put my canned goods and stuff until we can do a little addition and add pantry space to the cabin. We brought a bunch of our chicken eggs from the homestead property. We have a ton in the fridge as well, but these ones I think are probably the oldest ones. So as we use them, we've got to check them and make sure that they're not bad. And in case you've never done that and you don't know how to check and see if your farm fresh eggs are good or rotten, let me show you a quick trick. So just get you a cup or a bowl of water, take your egg, drop it inside, and if it floats, it's bad and you don't want to eat that egg. So it did not even drop down at all. You can tell that egg is rotten and you don't want to eat it. So I'm not going to use this one. This is a different egg. Let's see if this one is still good. Now you can see that one dropped all the way down to the bottom of the glass. It's not floating. So that egg is perfectly fine to eat. So that's the one that we'll use in our recipe today. All right, so now all we're gonna do is mix our ingredients in the mixing bowl. If you don't have a KitchenAid mixer, it's okay. You can use a hand mixer or you can just use your old-fashioned hands and a fork. Whatever works easiest for you. We are going to mix our dry ingredients like the flour, baking soda, and salt and all of that separately. So for now, we're gonna put all the wet ingredients into the mixer and get this whipped up nicely. I don't know how Parker always knows when I am working with honey in the kitchen, because I tell you what, every time he comes running in and wants to steal the measuring cup and lick it clean. He is a honey freak. And now we're gonna mix those dry ingredients, your flour, salt, baking soda, and cinnamon. Give that a good mix, and then we're gonna add this to the mixing bowl a little bit at a time. Like I said, Joe has never been one to like nuts in anything that he eats. So what I'm gonna do is one of these trays is gonna be without nuts for Joe. And after that, I will fold in the walnuts to the rest of the batter, and then I'll fill the other tray for me because I do like a little crunch in my goodies. Now once these are done, we are going to pop them into a preheated oven at 350 for about 30 minutes or until you can stick a toothpick in there and it comes out clean. Easy peasy, so delicious. You guys remember our awesome celery harvest this fall? I am still using frozen celery in my recipes from the garden. The best way to preserve it for long term, you just grab a handful when you need it, pop it in your recipe. Tonight I'm making chicken and dumplings. Once your muffins are done baking, let them cool completely on cooling racks before you frost them or put whipped cream on them because they're going to be really warm, so it will melt right off. Let me know in the comments if you guys would like for me to share my chicken and dumpling recipe with you guys. This is such a comfort food, and with Joe being sick right now with COVID, what better to have for dinner than a warm chicken soup with homemade chicken stock from the backyard homestead. Now you can whip up a simple cream cheese frosting or a simple glaze with powdered sugar, or you can just simply put some whipped cream on top of these muffins. They're so delicious and they're great without anything, just as they are, with like a really yummy cup of coffee. It's always really weird for me to see Joe sick because he rarely gets sick, and the best thing I can do for him is just try to comfort him, run him a hot bath, get him what he needs, make him a delicious, nutritious dinner, and of course a dessert to go on the side because he loves apples, so I knew that he would love this recipe. Anyway, you guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this quick video on how to make some apple spice muffins. You can also put this in a cake dish like a Pyrex if you want to make a cake out of it. It's just a really flexible recipe. I always enjoy cooking with you guys in the kitchen. This is our first recipe video here in the apartment. Whoop whoop. Many more to come. Super excited to share the apartment life with you guys. I hope you give this recipe a try. Remember, add whatever fruit you want. It's absolutely delicious. The sour cream makes it super moist. Let me know in the comments if you give it a try, what you think of it, and I will see you guys very soon on the next video.